Hey guys, what's going on? James here. Like and subscribe if you guys are new, by the way. And in this video today, we are continuing to regrade all of the off seasons under the Jason Light era, continuing on with the 2019 off season. Jason Light said himself that if he did not fulfill some of the promises that he made to the Glazier family on bringing certain guys in, that he probably wouldn't be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. And yeah, I tend to believe him based on how some of these previous off seasons had gone before the 2019 off season. This was really, you could argue, like probably like top two, probably top two, yes, because obviously we know what happens in the next offseason of 2020. You could argue this is probably the second most important offseason of the Jason Light era with the Bucs. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. And of course, we have to talk about the firing of head coach Dirk Cutter and the hiring of head coach Bruce Arians, who was coming out of retirement from the Arizona Cardinals to join the Bucs. The team actually had to trade for the rights to hire him. They traded for Bruce Arians and a 2019 seventh round pick, which we will talk about later on in this video, for a 2019 sixth round pick to the Arizona Cardinals, which would later become Lamont Gilliard. I give the trade an A+, I give the hiring an A+. Bruce Arians was the perfect coach to hire at this time to completely flip and change what had become a horribly stagnant culture for the Bucs at that point. The team felt so listless. It felt like it did not have an identity. Bruce Arians helped give this team an identity and is still an identity that the Bucs feel to this day. Okay, so I cannot stress how important the hiring of Bruce Arians was. You can argue that singular move alone in this offseason saved Jason Light's job, in my opinion. I don't think that's a crazy argument to make. That was what I had alluded to earlier, where it's like, hey, Jason Light said, I can get Bruce Arians. If he didn't get Bruce Arians, I don't think he's the GM of the Bucs today. In fact, I don't even think it's close. So you have that as an A+. You then go to some releases and re-signings that were made. Brian Anger got released. I give it a D. He was actually a pretty solid punter for the Bucs, and yes, the Bucs did flip-flop with some punters after this, and they're still trying to find their answer. You did also release Vinny Curry as well. I give it a D- because he did play for the Bucs, so kudos to him for that. But again, another high-tier free agency signing that just didn't work for Jason Light up to this point. Mitch Unrein was released as well. It's an F. I understand that it was for medical reasons. He did basically medically retire from the Buccaneers, so I do understand it, but it was still another flop of a free agency signing. Donovan Smith was brought back on a 3-year, $41.25 million deal. I give that one a B-. Actually, before that, Gerald McCoy was released as well. F. I'm a big Gerald McCoy guy. He was one of my favorite Tampa Bay Buccaneers growing up. Yes, they did replace him with a very serviceable option, but I hated how the Buccaneers handled this situation for one of the greats of the modern era, in my opinion. So I give it an F grade. Anyway, back to Donovan Smith, 3-year, $41.25 million deal. I give it a B-, man. Like, I understand there was a lot of people who did not like Donovan Smith, but he was kind of like a B-esque left tackle in the league. It really like C+, B-, right? So that's the grade I give it, because like, yeah, he got a lot of money, but there are plenty of offensive left tackles that got way more money than him going forward. So it was fine given the circumstances. I do want to include this guy, by the way. I think he joined the Bucs the previous offseason or somewhere along the 2018 season, but I wanted to include it here. Andrew Adams was brought back. B. I love Andrew Adams. Dude was a very cool, serviceable safety, in my opinion. Shout out Andrew Adams, like a low-key solid player for the Bucs. And I'm happy he's one of those guys that got a Super Bowl ring. Finally, some other small re-signings that were made. Devontae Bond, Peyton Barber, Raheem Nunez-Roches. I give it a C+. Again, all solid kind of spot guys in certain roles. Devontae Bond on special teams. Peyton Barber as a fringe starting running back. RNR as a kind of fringe starter DT nose tackle type guy, I give it all a C plus. They did lose a couple of guys in free agency as well. They lost Adam Humphries to the Tennessee Titans. I give it a D. I really think Humphries was a solid guy, and I wish he would have stuck around for the Bruce Arians era. I really do believe he would have had some success. Quan Alexander was lost as well. I give it a C. They did replace Quan going forward, but man, dude, he was a heartbeat for this defense. He was such a emotional player, but like powerful emotions that really helped you connect to him as a fan and probably as a teammate as well. Injuries and stuff like that as well kind of took their toll. Even after he left the Bucs, they took their toll. So like, again, I understand why they let him go in free agency. He got an absolute bag from the 49ers, which was cool to see. But yeah, it was sad to see him go. And then Fitz left as well. I give it a C minus because, like, I understand whenever Bruce Arians came in, he was like, dude, I'm all about Jameis. I don't want a quarterback controversy with Ryan Fitzpatrick like what we saw with Dirk Cutter. Jameis is my guy. And they treated it as such. I wish Fitz was still around. Fitz in a BA offense would have been freaking awesome. Would we have seen like a Carson Palmer-esque revival for Fitz? I don't know, man. But Arians did have that affinity with Jameis. It's one of the biggest reasons he was hired was like, hey, save Jameis, right? And it didn't end up happening. There were some good moments. There were some bad moments in there as well. The 1 year they were together. But like Fitz would have been a pretty solid backup, especially towards the end of that season. But let's go ahead and go into the free agency signings that were made. Brashad Perriman was brought in on a 1 year, $4 million deal. Let me actually go down here now to the additions. I give it a B plus, man. I was a fan of Brashad Perriman. He came up huge this season whenever Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were dealing with injuries, and Perriman came out there and delivered at the end of the season. I was a big Brashad Perriman guy. He would come back and actually have a couple more, big moments for the Bucs. So, like, shout out to Brashad Perriman for that. I was always a big fan of his as well. He never won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. I just saw that. He came back in 21 because if you remember in 2020 he left and got a bag from the New York Jets, so he wasn't around for the Super Bowl season, unfortunately. I don't blame him for getting a bag because he did help get paid here in that 1 year for the Bucs. B plus because the dude came out and delivered. They did replace Brian Anger with Bradley Pinion. It was a 4 year, $11 million deal. C plus. I mean, Bradley Pinion was fine, but it still wasn't like the best circumstances in the world. He was just a fine punter, all things considered. I do want to mention this guy. Kevin Minter was brought in on a 1 year, $1 million deal. C plus. I was a fan of what Cairo Santos came out there and didn't have the strongest leg in the world, but you know what? He was pretty accurate, all things considered. He was, honestly, you can say Cairo Santos was kind of the start of the Bucs rebounding at the kicker position. Cairo Santos kind of started that. Of course, I do have to mention the big man himself. Edge rusher Shaq Barrett was brought in on a 1 year, $4 million deal. A plus. To this point, was the best free agent signing that Jason Light had ever made. There will be one, maybe two that will surpass it. Maybe only one, to be fair. But like when you sign a guy in his first year with the team, he breaks the single season sack record for your franchise. It's a good signing, to be sure. So A plus, Shaq was awesome. It was a shame that year was wasted on a non-playoff season because dude was freaking electric throughout the 2019 season. Another small signing that was made was, he's not even on the list, but quarterback Blaine Gabbert was brought in on a 1 year, $1.6 million deal. C minus, I would have rather had Fitz. Finally, the replacement for Gerald McCoy came in. It was defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh, brought in on a 1 year, $9.25 million deal. I give it an A, man. Suh was a big part of what the Bucs were doing for a couple of years. He only spent 3 years in Tampa Bay, but he started every game for the Bucs throughout that season, throughout the time that he was there, and he did have a notable impact. He was a little bit past his prime, right? But he did win his only Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, so shout out to him for that. And what was so important was how big of a mentor he was to Vita Vea. I'm not saying that Gerald McCoy couldn't have done the same thing. Again, like everybody compares Sue and McCoy. Everybody, right? They were literally one pick apart. Sue was number 2, McCoy was number 3. I think both could have been very solid for the Bucs for the next 3 seasons, let's say. Sue was healthier, which is notable as well. He just had like better health than what we saw with Gerald McCoy. And he was a very solid sign. Again, for $9.25 million, he was about the best guy possible to replace McCoy for the Bucs. He was really the only guy that I think could have been a suitable replacement for Gerald McCoy, and he showcased that. So an A signing for me. Again, like one of the more important signings in Jason Light's tenure as a GM was Ndamukong Suh. I think that that's pretty underrated. But now we get to the NFL draft. Actually, before that, the Buccaneers did trade away wide receiver Deshaun Jackson and a 2020 7th round pick for a 2019 6th round pick number 208. It's a D grade. I mean, it's Deshaun Jackson. And I know Arians did try to keep him, and that was cool and everything, but he didn't want to be in Tampa Bay. He was sick of it. He honestly it seemed like he was pretty sick of Jameis. He wanted Fitz to be the starter. Didn't happen. So there was just a fundamental disagreement there, and you got peanuts for him. So I give that a D grade all day long. But anyway, we get to the 2019 NFL Draft with the number 5 overall pick. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected linebacker Devin White. I give it a B-. I know that Devin White, he's gone. He's with the Raiders now, I believe. Is he with the Raiders? Let me check on that real quick. Yeah, he's with the Raiders. And he's still trying to find his way back into the NFL. But you know what? He did play his whole rookie contract in Tampa Bay. He did make a Pro Bowl at one point for the Bucs. He did win a Super Bowl with the team. I give that a B-, man. I understand that like he should still be here as a former number 5 overall pick, but I'm not going to go as far as to say the pick was like a bust. He played out his whole deal. And things got pretty gnarly there at the end, just in terms of him losing a lot of playing time and getting benched for guys like, J.J. Russell or gosh, who was the other linebacker that was benched for him? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It was oh my gosh, he's KJ Britt was replacing Devin White. I know that that's not the best look in the world, but I would not call Devin White a bust. He was a fine pick, and like when he was on, especially during like that Super Bowl year, he was going crazy, right? And there was a lot of people who were saying, yeah, pay this guy, right? Like he deserves the money. So I still remember those moments. And he was fine for the most part when he was here in Tampa Bay. That's why I gave it a B-. Round 2, pick number 39, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft cornerback Sean Murphy Bunting, formerly Sean Bunting. He would then later on become Sean Murphy Bunting. I give it a B. This was another solid pick for Jason Light. Sean Murphy Bunting was another guy, like during that playoff run, during that Super Bowl run, he did some really good work, and he went on to join a couple different teams. I think he was on the Tennessee Titans for a minute. Now I think he's on the Arizona Cardinals. He still is having some like injury concerns, which he did have that issue in Tampa Bay as well. But for a second round guy, he was very solid. I don't think the Bucs win the Super Bowl in 2020 without the contributions of Sean Murphy Bunting. Very similar to like Devin White as well. I just think that SMB was a little bit of a better player, which is why I give it a B. Round 3, pick number 94 is cornerback Jamel Dean. People may dislike me for this. It's an A-. The only reason it's an A- is because Dean can't stay healthy. But for a former third-round pick to be one of the, I would say, top 20 cornerbacks, maybe even higher, let's say maybe top 15 cornerbacks in the league when he is fully healthy, deserves an A- for me. For a round 3 type guy, nobody really expected Jamel Dean to be as good as he was for a third round guy, right? He plays like a first round talent cornerback in this league, and him and Carlton Davis were a fantastic connection. And did some really, really good work in there. So I give it a A-. Jamel Dean was solid. Next, we have safety Mike Edwards in round 3, pick number 99. it's a B. Another solid pick here by Jason Light. Mike Edwards was a great spot starter for the Bucs over the years. He's actually had a couple of stints with Tampa Bay. And he's also a two-time Super Bowl winner, which is cool, by the way. He won one with the Bucs. Then the next year, I believe he won it with the Kansas City Chiefs. So shout out Mike Edwards, man. He was a solid guy when he was in Tampa. Anthony Nelson was in round number 4, pick number 107. Another B. For Anthony Nelson to have the longevity that he did for a 4th round pick and still be on the roster today is a very, very awesome thing to see, and I will give him credit for that. He is a 4th round pick. We know what he is. He is a rotational guy, but he plays his role pretty perfectly, okay? Now, I don't always agree with people who say, like, hey, this guy should be a starter and this, that, and the other. I think he is basically in the right role, which is a 3rd, 4th edge rusher. And for a 4th round pick, that's a pretty solid pick, in my opinion. Round 5, they took Matt Gay at pick number 145. It's a D. He didn't last long in Tampa Bay. Honestly, like, I probably should give it an F. Maybe I'll just give it like a D-. Didn't work out in Tampa Bay. The kicking woes continued. Round 6, pick number 208, as part of that Deshaun Jackson trade, they got a new deep threat in Scotty Miller. Give it a C+. The Bucs don't win in Green Bay without that Scotty Miller play in the Super Bowl run. I know I'm referencing the Super Bowl run a lot. A lot of these guys stepped up during that run. Scotty Miller is no different. He caught that deep ball from Brady. Didn't do much after that, to be 100% honest with you guys. Was a little bit of a one-trick pony, but he's still in the league, which is cool for him. But I give it a C+ because, yeah, he had a couple of bright moments here and there whenever he was with the Bucs. Finally, round 7, pick number 215, Terry Beckner Jr. I don't know, man, like D. He never really played for the Bucs, so it is what it is. But, folks, this was all in all a pretty solid offseason for the Bucs. So much change happened. So much change happened, and it was a lot of change for the better, in my opinion. And really, as we'll go over in the next couple of off seasons after, things just continued to get more and more crazy as time went on. So what did you guys think about this off season? Did you agree with my grades, disagree with my grades? Let me know your thoughts and opinions about it down in the comments section below. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. And as always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.